All right, folks. We're back for our last segment of the day. Today's Thursday, the 24th. Glad to have you with us. Boy, I know some of this stuff is controversial, but you know what? Nobody else in media is talking about it, ladies and gentlemen. Nobody. Where are the other mainstream radio hosts who are exposing this stuff? Nobody. I'm one guy. I'm a flea on the elephant's butt. I know that I've got this, tiny audience of dedicated folks who work tirelessly to try to help and share and spread these videos so that other people can see them and be awakened and aware of what's happening around us. I got to tell you, it's a tough place to be, guys. Mainstream media, the Ministry of Propaganda, is decidedly doing anything and everything in their power to keep this kind of information from you. I know I'm not real polished. I'm not Sean Hannity. I'm not Rush Limbaugh. I'm not Glenn Beck. I don't have all this fancy gear and equipment. Our listenership paid for everything that we've got. I pay every month for the fees to keep this show on the air, with the limitation of some sponsors who keep us on a local radio station. I mean, guys, where is America when, this topic for this show is going to be the Louisiana Citizen Database of people who are, quote, you ain't going to believe this one. This is a Louisiana database that was originally allegedly created to detect fraud, but it's to identify people, quote, who are a risk to the state down the road upon information that we know about, based on information we know about the individual, end quote. It enables authorities to quickly identify an individual who is going to be at risk of incarceration down the road. What? That's exactly what I said. This guy is a Louisiana state representative in this video. What he did was he was talking about, and he was running basically an ad for the benefit of this issue in Louisiana, where this is a company that does big data. And I don't think, quite frankly, he understood what he was saying and that it was going to be picked up and listened to and understood by the American people and recognized for what it is. This is an information hub that is intended to detect potential future criminals and allow government to, quote, intervene in their lives. That's their words, not mine. When you hear this video, it's only 3 minutes. Stick with it, stick with us, and make sure that you participate here. But when you hear this, it's going to blow the top of your head off. This is exactly what I'm talking about when I'm talking about the risks that we have under the National Security Agency, the FBI, the database that they're putting together based on Obamacare, Department of Homeland Security. Every state is cooperating. Every state is assisting. Every agency. They are furiously at work trying to gather facial recognition. The federal government now openly admits that they're doing that. I got to tell you, folks, this is stuff that is so far over the top. I cannot believe that Americans are standing around and we are not storming the castles, literally. I mean, what is it going to take, folks? What is it going to take?
Well, originally what we were facing was...
This guy, his name is Representative Chris Broadwater from the Louisiana House of Representatives. I believe he's a Republican, I might add, which ought to tell you everything that you know about this upcoming election. Every damned Republican out there has been supportive of the NSA and all of this spying and surveillance crap. These people are traitors to you personally.
There's a problem with fraud, specifically in workers' compensation and unemployment insurance. Well, initially, in order to respond to workers' compensation unemployment fraud, we were looking at the SAS fraud framework to provide those analytics. But
listen now.
When we built our system, we decided instead of providing an agency-specific solution, that we would instead create a centralized data warehouse.
All right, there it comes. But while we were at it, we decided we were going to create the centralized data warehouse. and we were going to get every state agency to put data into the system. When you hear in the next 2 minutes what the plan is, it's going to blow the top of your head off.
Applying the SAS fraud framework there and allow every agency within state government to operate like a hub and spoke type system where they would.
So every agency within the state, every agency would pour information in and have access to draw information out about all the people that are in the database. Those people are the citizens of Louisiana.
Would all send in their data. By the centralized data warehouse getting data from those multiple sources, it would allow each participating agency who was seeking to detect fraud within their agency to create that comprehensive person profile and look for anomalies.
A comprehensive person profile. You know, what you don't... We hear Muslims saying you can't profile. We hear blacks saying you can't profile. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the same crap that we went through in the 14th Amendment. We didn't free the slaves in the 14th Amendment. We enslaved everyone in the country. This is the same thing. They're not profiling blacks. They're not profiling Hispanics. They're not profiling gays. They're not profiling Islamics. They're not profiling any. They're profiling everybody, irrespective of what other demographic you may fit into. You know what? The citizens of Louisiana should be storming this en masse, finding out where that data sits and destroying the computers. I mean, this is unconscionable behavior.
The beauty to me behind the solution that SAS provided.
The beauty to him behind the solution, right? This is a commercial for the company that does the business for him. The beauty behind this, the magic behind the wizard behind the curtain that enables us to know everything about you. Wait until you hear what they're talking about doing. When you show up to go get your welfare check, they know the names of all your kids, and they're wait until you hear this. This is going to blow your mind.
Was that they were able to take a state that was data rich and solution poor and compile, aggregate all of that data into a single location so that we could then have multiple applications that were available.
So they've got all of your information in a centralized location, and they're now going to use it for reasons that they haven't told you what they are yet, right? So the game plan here is they've got multiple reasons or multiple things that they're going to use this for, but they're not telling you what those are.
Ultimately, my hope would be that we reach a point in state government to where we can take all of the information we have, create that comprehensive person profile so it makes the lives of our citizens better.
There's that word again, that phrase again, comprehensive person profile.
If they walk into the Department of Motor Vehicles to renew their driver's license, the individual, the state worker, can bring up the screen that automatically populates with your information to complete that application.
Okay, listen to this again. I want you to listen carefully. When you go to motor vehicle, the state employee automatically, your file pops up and it pre-populates all the forms, your name, your address, your date of birth, your social security number, the number of kids in your household, the number of people who live with you, whether you paid your taxes or not, did you pay your county tax so they're free to give you your registration on your motor vehicle. This is so flippin' Orwellian, America, I can't stand it.
Walk into the Department of Motor Vehicles to renew their driver's license, the individual, the state worker, can bring up the screen that automatically populates with your information to complete that application. But not only does it do that, but may also alert that individual that their child may be eligible for the state health insurance program that may enable that child to get treatment at an early age for something that could turn into a very costly disease later that will cost the state lots of dollars. If we could be proactive from that aspect, use the analytics to identify where there is a risk to the state down the road based upon the information we know on the individual.
So the goal is to identify what the risks are to the state. Not to really help you, because the truth is they really don't give a damn about you. You know, they're playing this happy little music in the background. This is a commercial. They're playing this happy little music in the background like it's a down-homey thing, And everybody's supposed to be so happy that when you walk in, the facial recognition camera recognizes you, and before you even get up to the counter, your file is in front of the happy little lady who's the dowdy little state worker. Ladies and gentlemen, this is your future. If you think it's going to be so beneficent, you have been completely indoctrinated by the Kool-Aid.
Whether it's saving money in healthcare costs or quickly identifying an individual who is going to be at risk for incarceration.
There you go. Whether it's going to save the state money in healthcare, or if it's to identify an individual who's going to be at risk of incarceration down the road. What? Do you understand the implications of that? Really?
Going to be at risk for incarceration down the road.
I mean, you've got to be kidding me. We're now determining in advance
if we could intervene in that person's life.
If we can intervene in that person's life. If we can intervene in that person's life. The Republican member of the Louisiana House of Representatives, Chris Broadwater, District 86, doing a commercial for the big data company that's gathering and collecting all the information about you, set up to combat fraudulent worker compensation and unemployment insurance claims. They've now migrated and morphed this through mission creep into an Orwellian database that makes 1984 and Fahrenheit 451 look like they've been merged into one. Not to mention the Minority Report with pre-crime. You know, here's the problem, ladies and gentlemen. This is only the beginning and the tip of the iceberg to the treason that is being accomplished and injected into our society every single moment. You are all sitting here allowing this to be done to us because America won't stand up as a unified group, lock our elbows and said, we've had enough. The truth is, this is terrorism. Because irrespective of the happy music in the background, irrespective of, well, okay, let's use their definition. Let me explain to you how it's terrorism. In the Patriot Act, now of course, their argument will be, well, that doesn't count, you can't count government in those guilty of these acts that would qualify as terrorism. Really? Why are you exempted? Because you wrote it? In Section 802 of the USA Patriot Act, they expanded the definition of terrorism to include the new term domestic terrorist, as opposed to international terrorism. And here's how they define it. A person engages in domestic terrorism if they do an act dangerous to human life that is a violation of the criminal laws of a state or the United States, or if the act appears intended to, and here's where it gets applicable. 1, intimidate or coerce a civilian population. The guy's guilty. The state's guilty. The federal government's guilty. The NSA's guilty. The FBI's guilty. Every agency is guilty. The EPA, the BLM, the USDA, the FTC, the FCC, the FAA. Need I go on? Guilty of an act of domestic terrorism if the act appears or is intended to intimidate or coerce a civilian population. 2, influence the policy of a government by intimidation or coercion. Is that not what all of this bribe money coming from the federal government to the states to subvert and betray your Fourth Amendment rights is all about? Is that not part of it, ladies and gentlemen? Ask yourself. The federal government is pumping billions, hundreds of billions of dollars into the states. $5 billion to intimidate or coerce and influence the policy of government by intimidation and coercion. What is coercion? Coercion is, I'm going to give you this money, and if you don't do it, I'm going to take the money away. That's coercion. Now, here's $5 billion, implement Common Core. Oh, you're not going to do that? We're going to pull your school funds. Coercion intended to influence the policy of a government. Guys, this isn't, you don't have to be a lawyer to figure this out. You can use their own words against them. And utilizing their own definition, these acts have to occur within the territorial jurisdiction of the United States, and if they don't, they'll be regarded as international terrorism. Everything that you just heard in that video was designed to intimidate or coerce. You can apply the term coercion to his example. When you walk into motor vehicle, up pops your file. And the girl at motor vehicle, who's happily sitting there in the video smiling as if, all is well, the sun is shining, the birds are singing, the clouds are scuttling across the earth, and we all have full tummies, and the world is so wonderful, and you're so happy to pay that $87 to register a car you've bought and owned for 12 years. And up pops your file, and she looks at it, and she says, Mr. Jones, I'm so happy to see you. How's Mrs. Jones? I know you're married. It says right here, and it tells me your wife's name. And I see your birthday was yesterday. Tell her happy birthday for me. And by the way, I see you have little Johnny and little Susie and little Stevie. And I see that little Stevie hasn't had all of his shots, and he's about to enter school. You do realize that, of course, little Stevie is eligible for the free clinic service. And, of course, he will not be able to join or go to the school without all of his shots. And you, like an idiot, say, well, we don't believe in immunization. Oh, there goes the flag. She puts a checkbox next to the thing that says non-compliant with immunization records. You go to bring the kid to school on the first day, and you're told at gunpoint, sorry, he's not allowed in. Then you get a visit from DYFS, who says, you must not be good parents if you won't get little Stevie his shots. You see, you're an individual who is going to be at risk of incarceration down the road. And you are a risk to the state down the road, based on the information we know about you as an individual. Their words, not mine. And I also notice, while you're here, Mr. Jones, that you have been purchasing an enormous amount of guns lately. I mean, I see that you purchased a pistol, and I see that you purchased 2 rifles. I mean, I'm just curious, why do you feel that you have the need to have firearms? And are they locked up so that little Stevie and Johnny and Susie can't gain access to them? Well, that's really none of your business. Oh, I better put a check next to his name that he's belligerent, and he's clearly antisocial. He refuses to answer the questions. The next thing you know, you receive a knock on the door from your local police department. We're just here to check up and make sure that Stevie and Susie and Johnny are okay, because it's our understanding that there are firearms in the house. And we see that 22 years ago, you had an arrest for marijuana. And we're deeply concerned about the safety of the children. May we come in? Ladies and gentlemen, are you not seeing the obvious? Your boss gets a phone call. How's Mr. Jones doing at work? Is he showing up on time? I mean, our database shows that he works for you. Because we're trying to identify and detect fraud. Has he ever done anything that would raise you to question him? Does he seem depressed? Is it possible he's a threat to himself or others? I mean, you are his immediate supervisor. We want to make sure that he's not filing any fraudulent workers' compensation and unemployment insurance claims. That's where we have the information, of course. It allows us to create this centralized data warehouse that, of course, you submit to. Every agency within state government submits. And it's to detect fraud and identify people who are at risk. who are a risk to the state down the road based upon the information we have about that individual. So we're just trying to be proactive about Mr. Jones because we have deep concerns. Well, we can't discuss those concerns with you because it's an investigation that's currently underway. And as you can well imagine, you wouldn't want us to discuss your personal information based purely on an investigation. So you'll understand why we won't want to talk about Mr. Jones' personal investigation. So we're just here to ask you questions, and we'd like you to answer them. Does he seem depressed? Has he been missing work lately? See, the goal here is for us to find those people who are a risk to the state down the road based upon the information we know about the individual. Why do I keep repeating that phrase? Because it's their phrase! And we as authorities are enabled to quickly identify, quote, an individual who's going to be at risk of incarceration down the road. No, we're not saying that Mr. Jones is a criminal. We're just saying that he would be a higher risk than you, perhaps, sir. But if you're unwilling to provide the information from us and cooperate, perhaps we'll pull your file and maybe open an investigation into why you are so uncooperative, Mr. Employer. Because, after all, our goal here is to identify individuals who are going to be at risk of incarceration down the road. Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for you to make a decision and stand your ground, to stand on your feet, to arise, be fierce, to stand up and be fearless, to be courageous, and to speak out and fight back actively, even when your voice and your hands shake with fear. When the government fears the people, there is freedom and liberty. When people fear their government, there is tyranny. Those were words from Jefferson 250 years ago. You've heard me say it before. We live in a police state. And the mainstream media is doing everything in their power to keep you calm, to keep you sedated, to keep you numb, to make you apathetic, confused, disinterested, misdirected. They use propaganda. They use your own addictions against you. They love the idea of an America completely ensconced in marijuana smoke. Not because they really care about you or your health. They just want you numb and apathetic. Do you smoke pot? I couldn't care less. I'm just telling you that if you do, that's exactly what it does. Makes you numb and apathetic. All of you Occupy Wall Streets, Occupy D.C., you're falling right into their trap. You are the mouse who's biting upon the cheese. And it's not you that's going to lose your freedom and your life. It's going to be you, your significant other, your children, your children's children, for generations to come, until someone, somewhere, has the courage to stand and say, no more. Why don't we have that courage? You've been listening to America's Voice Now. My name is Michael Evans. I am your distraught and unhappy host. You can contact us. You can send me email directly to mike@americasvoicenow.org. Please support our efforts to awaken, alert. Think of it as supporting Paul Revere. That's what this is really about.